is the reality show on Calabash TV. Just around the time that Saint Lucia is getting ready to celebrate its 41st anniversary celebration of outstanding achievements in Saint Lucia as well. And we'd like to welcome to our studio Greaves Francis of the Saint Lucia, the School of Art and Design, Saint Lucia. Yes. Welcome.
Thank you.
And I mentioned anniversary because you did a project for our independence. It's 40th anniversary?
Yes, the 40th.
And you recognize 40 women.
That's right.
So give us an idea. You'll give us some more details of exactly who are these 40 women and why you chose them and so on. But first of all, what inspired this project?
Well, I would say we applied to do the project under a UNESCO PP project, and we decided to apply under the gender category. And the school, from the school, we've always decided that we wanted to promote art and artists, you know. So I thought, what a better way to, you know, to feature artists and in different areas, but through a publication, and that's what we decided to do.
Good. So you mentioned the School of Art and Design, Saint Lucia. Tell us about the school.
School of Art and Design, we started in 2011, and we started with a summer program of 50 students, which I was very surprised at the time. It was very overwhelming. The support was very overwhelming. So we started with 50 students, and once the summer was over, we had to think, okay, what are we going to do next? Because we want to continue. And we started also with some animation classes. But the students we got, they didn't just want to do 1 or 2 classes. They wanted an entire program. And so we decided, okay, let's look at putting a program together. And that's what we did. I think we had either 3 or 4 students enrolled. And they stayed for approximately, I believe it was about a year or just over a year. And once they were done, one of the students, and he was very, he was standing out a lot in the group, and he went on to the US to further his studies. He's actually still there, and he's doing very, very well. So once that was over, we just decided, okay, let us see what other programs we can offer, what persons would like to learn about, you know, what would contribute in society to the development of the arts and so forth. And I guess it just took off from there.
I'm kind of doing this back to front. We're talking to Greaves Francis. Now, Signa, quite an artistic name in itself. Greaves is a brand in itself as well. No disrespect to Mr. Francis. But so talk to us about the connection. I mean, we hear of the Greaves who are, you know, who established their name in art and so many different areas in the creative sector. So talk to us about your connection.
Well, my uncle, Sean Greaves, he's very well known in Carnival. He also paints, he does various designs and so on, and he has been doing this for quite a long time, probably before I was I was born. So he definitely has established his name. My mom as well, in the fashion area. She, of course, again, before I came into existence, she definitely was creating many designs, whether for Carnival, whether for weddings, and different, you know, occasions and so forth. My aunt as well, Esma Jamari, she's deceased now, but she also worked alongside my mom. And actually the publication is dedicated to their establishment, which was Fashionette, and my memories of growing up, you know, in Fashionette and among the women who were there, and my mom and my aunt and so forth. So my other uncles, they are probably not into the arts as I would say like Sean and my mom and so on, but they all have the artistic talent as well.
And you didn't mention your twin. We found out today that you have a twin.
Yes. I forgot my twin. Yes, my twin sister. She studied interior design, and she worked in the US for about, I think it was 11 years. And unfortunately, when the economic crisis came on, she decided, okay, you know, let me return to Saint Lucia and let me see what I could do in her area. So she came back, and she worked with a company for a while, and now she's getting back into her interior design and looking forward to doing that full time and so on. Before, she was doing it part-time while working, you know, doing some other things full-time, but still related to interior design because she was doing construction and so forth. So I guess she was marrying the two, but now she's trying to focus on getting herself established back into her interior design and architecture and so forth.
And she's featured in the book as well.
Yes, she is.
So we'll talk a little bit about her in just a while. Was that planned when she studied interior design and you went on focus on what area?
I studied graphic design.
Did you all have a discussion on that?
No, we didn't. We didn't actually. I went off to school first, and I guess in choosing the areas, first of all, I said I told my father I wanted to do art, and his response was, "Art doesn't make money in Saint Lucia." And
was
I suppose, right? Well, I tell my students that I am not a starving artist. I told him that I have a home, I have a vehicle that I drive, and I think I'm comfortable. So I don't think he was completely right, but I could understand, of course, because when you look at art in the traditional sense, and of course you think of the so-called starving artist concept and whatnot, then you might want to say that. And of course, Saint Lucia is not the place that truly promotes, you know, the creative arts and whatnot. So I could understand his expression, but I think when he said that, I was definitely looking forward to prove him wrong.
Okay.
and I definitely did so. So I decided, okay, I looked at what was available at the school that I went to, and I decided to choose graphic design. And I think it gave me an opportunity to, you know, look to, let's say, marry very varying arts and whatnot. I think for my sister, if I can recall, when we were younger, we were inspired through, I would say, my mother's magazines. She had these home and garden magazines, so we were sort of nurtured from early. And we would sit together and go through the magazines. My sister would draw plans at a very young age and design homes for friends and whatnot. So I think she gravitated towards that. And then I just gravitated towards something else.
So we're talking about sustaining livelihoods and so on, and you have a few examples in the book.
Yes.
Where women who are earning a living of their craft and so on. All right, so it's called From Inspiration to Creation, Saint Lucian Women Sustaining Lives and Livelihoods Through the Arts. So talk about the research process, because we see names here of people that we don't recognize and some who are celebrated. So give us an idea of the research process.
Okay, so what I did was first of all, I got a list from CDF. I remember there was a project done where they were mapping various artists, artisans, and so forth. So I wrote to them and I asked them to give me a copy of, you know, the list that they had. And myself and I had a few other persons that I worked with, as well as the staff at UNESCO. And we went through the list. Also, I had other people, I wouldn't say nominate, but provide information on persons in their area that they knew. And I'm talking about men and not women. So, so you know, to give me some names of certain areas that I personally would not have known, for instance, the architecture and whatnot. And they provided me with names, and we just went through the categories. What we tried to do, because there are 11 categories and we only had space for 40 women. So the decision was not easy. And I think we had to really shuffle and so forth. Of course, we were choosing women who were Saint Lucians. So we had others, but we had to make some changes for some who even though they were Saint Lucian by citizenship, they were not necessarily born here and whatnot. So we kind of looked at all of these things and decided, okay, the categories would either have 3 or it would have 4 in them, because they were 11 and that's like an odd number. And then we just went through and decided, okay, let's deliberate and let's choose some names, and that's what we did.
Okay, so you chose a coffee book concept as opposed to a textbook, because to me this would do very well in the school as a textbook as well.
That's true, yes.
But what influenced that decision?
Well, I think the idea was to have persons sit and relax and learn about each individual, be inspired by each individual's story. And I thought of not just having a textbook, because normally when you have a textbook, I don't think anybody really likes to read textbooks. You know, unless you are mature and you're going through it from a different perspective. I mean, if you're a student in college or university, it's one thing, but then we sent them to the secondary schools, and I'm not sure if the students are mature enough to, you know, go through it and look at it the way they should have. So I felt that a coffee table book would be more appropriate, and also allow persons to relax and to have it on display as well. So coming from being a graphic designer and an artist myself, I kind of wanted something that persons would be able to, you know, appreciate, look at and enjoy, not just from reading, but also the visuals and so forth. So I think if you have a textbook, you just put it on a shelf somewhere. But if you have a coffee table book, then it's displayed, which is the idea, you know, of coffee table books. So I wanted something that would be displayed.
Okay, so we want to run through some of the art disciplines that you highlighted there. There are quite a few of them. Accessory design, architecture, interior design. That's where we found your sister. How you pronounce the first name?
Duena.
Duena. And there's also art educators, and we have people like Denise, and I guess Joyce Auguste.
Yes.
Petronella de Turville. Craft, textile, culinary, dance, obviously culinary. Nina Compton would be in there. And her mom has done
the forward, yes.
How did you get that to happen? How did you get Lady Janice to do some writing for you?
Well, I know Lady Janice personally.
Oh, you know her personally?
Yes, I know her. I know her personally. And I felt it was appropriate. You know, obviously, Sir John was the one who brought the country into independence 40 years ago. So, and she had, well, not just Nina, but Fiona is also in there under different categories. So I just thought it was very appropriate. Like I said, I know her personally. And I thought she would just be the most fitting person to write the foreword. So I simply asked, and she agreed. And
so we continue the disciplines. Dance is in their fashion, obviously. Film and theater, and this morning she was here, Martha Emmanuel.
Okay.
And she is in the book as well.
Yes.
And you have music as well. And she's celebrating her 30th anniversary. Lady Lynn is in there as one of your featured personalities. And painting, I do know Sabrina Romulus. I'm sure I know the other people, but we'll talk about them in a while.
Okay.
And also you have photography, digital media. Obviously with new media and everything else, so that fits in.
Definitely.
No, good. So give us an idea about which category was more challenging for you putting together.
Wow, let's see. Do you mean in choosing the names or in?
Yeah, in choosing the names, because like you said, they were probably in some of the categories you'd have quite a number of persons in there, but in some areas where you had to do a lot of research to find those persons.
I think because we were given a list, some of the people I really didn't know, but I got guidance. Okay. You know, I got some guidance. So I think the process of choosing was not as difficult. I would say maybe the shuffling around. For instance, in the painting category, I had to do a bit of shuffling. And I called on someone who is, she has a Me Curator gallery. Her name is Buki. And I called on Buki, and Buki actually represents young and emerging, you know, artists, painters and ceramists and so forth. And she is from, she's from England. But I think she's doing a really wonderful job, you know, doing that in Saint Lucia. And so I called her up, and she gave me a list of names, and we went through the names, and we decided, okay, let's look at the names. Let's look at persons who are actually creating a livelihood for themselves solely in those areas. Obviously, we had to. The book really broadened in scope from what we originally had planned. But when I looked through the names, we kind of came to a consensus. So I would not say that some areas were truly difficult. Of course, there are so many people that you would like to feature. So maybe I didn't have the job or the task of narrowing down everybody. I didn't choose everybody. I chose some persons, and I allowed UNESCO to lead in some of the choices and so forth, and some of the persons, like I said, that were recommended. So I would say it wasn't really difficult at all. Um, maybe narrowing down was ticklish, but I think we came up with a good group of 40.
Now, this is a powerful representation here, and so accessory design you'd see represents more of the new generation because the names you have
Yes,
there.
exactly.
So that's probably an emerging category as well.
Yes,
accessory design.
young and up and coming and so forth.
So Tariba Nascimento is in there, Terrell Nicholas, and we've all featured these ladies on Calabash TV because they participated in the Taiwan exhibition, and we've seen their work. Kale Cassius, who does the leather shoes and leather sandals and so on. And Dahlia Francois, who's doing an amazing job with 758 Books, but we know her as well in interior design and decorating, so she's established in that area. Andrea Girahu, I'm not very familiar with, and you just told me about your sister, Duina, who's in there as well.
Yes.
Now, art educators, where you recognize somebody like Joyce Ogis, who's been doing this for a long time, particularly Turville, who's no longer with us, Teresa Collymore, and Delcia Natram, who is doing tremendous work with schools in so many different areas, from theater to writing calypsos to lantern design. So I mean, Delcia is an amazing person doing amazing things. Fashion, Regina Edwards, Keitha Greaves, I guess connected.
That's my mom, yes.
That's your mom. And dance, Virginia Alexander, who's done a tremendous amount of work in dance, and Rosemary Etienne Paris, and of course Teresa Hall and Christine Samuel. So you have those areas covered as well. Talk to us about the painting one though, because except Sabrina,
Okay.
I'm not familiar with the other names.
Donna Grandison, she showcases her work at the, I think it's the Inner Gallery. Yes, she resides in Canada. And she does a lot of, what you call, if you notice in the book, she does a lot of nature, flowers and so forth. I think I did get her from the Inner Gallery. I think there's also Shalon Fadley. Shalon Fadley, yes. Shalon Fadley actually, she used to be, she's from my community. And she was one of those that when we had to do the shuffling, we had a bunch of names and we had to pick one last person. And she was the one chosen. I was not even, I know she was into art, but I was not aware that she was doing so much. And so it was amazing to me that she was doing such a good job, you know, and she's promoting her work in Saint Lucia as well as in Canada. So I think she was a very good decision or choice that we made in selecting her.
And the culinary arts as well, and we know Nina. I'm not familiar with the other ladies. Who's Edna Butcher?
Edna is the sous chef. She works at Bay Gardens. And actually Edna was recommended to us. I was asking around for, you know, other possible persons in culinary and so forth. And I was led to a gentleman. I think he's in the Hotel Association or something like that. And when I called on him, I asked him if he could recommend somebody who is doing very well that is probably not known, and he recommended Edna, and I contacted her, and she was very delighted to be part of the publication. Of course, one of her let's say her inspirations is definitely Nina. So I was happy to feature Edna. I had never heard about her, but apparently she's been doing very, very well for herself.
And Simona June Leon Morrill?
Yes. June, I know she's been doing quite a lot of work in catering.
Right, so that's June's Catering.
Yes, June's right. June's Catering.
Well
yes,
June's Catering.
Exactly. I'm sure.
Okay, so she's the one. Yes.
Yes, so she's the one.
Yeah, she used to be in there. Yes.
So she's been doing this for a while as well. Yes, and I suppose probably not brought to the fore.
Right.
You know, as probably some of the others that we don't know inside of here.
But she does some high-profile catering. And
yes.
She produces some excellent stuff. Irina Alphonse, that's, I suppose, from Choiseul?
That's right. I think under the
craft textile design.
Under the craft section, we actually have three individuals. They're all from Choiseul. And that's Irina, is Cathy, Osman, and
Daphne?
Daphne, yes.
Stephen,
yeah, and Daphne is into basketry. And Irina and Kathy, they were into coal pot making and doing some, I would say, traditional ceramics craft, you know, using the traditional clay and so forth.
And our icon, Lynn Bristol, is in there.
Yes, definitely.
Under the craft textile as well.
Yes, definitely for her textiles.
And music, we mentioned earlier on, Lady Lynn is in there. She's just celebrating her 30th anniversary. Barbara Cadet, obviously. Shirley Ann Cyril, and also Cecil Descat, of course.
Yes,
There's no way you can exclude her.
That definitely, and we have quite a mix for the music, which I'm actually happy about. There's nobody replicating anybody inside of there, so everybody is in a, let's say, in a genre of their own, you know, which is nice, and we've covered, I think, you know, four categories that do well in Saint Lucia, at least have been promoted in Saint Lucia.
This book, can I buy this book? Where is this book available?
Okay, so the book is actually not for sale. We printed 300 copies, and we had a distribution list. So we distributed to the schools, to libraries. We also sent to some government officials and so forth. We also gave persons who were featured, we gave them priority to request additional copies. Now, what we decided to do, because the book, we couldn't sell the book, we asked persons to donate to the school, and we asked them to donate $50 per copy, you know, and the funds would go towards supporting students who come to our summer programs. We usually have a summer program every year, and we have students that we support, and this would go to supporting these students. So you're giving a donation for a copy. Generally, persons have been contacting me. At this point, I think I didn't expect the books to have gone as fast as they did. I'm not sure how many copies we have left. I actually have to take stock.
Wow.
I think a little later this morning we had a very big request for probably almost half of a little more than half of what we had left.
Wow.
So and I think that is going to be given out as gifts at some upcoming event. So I was very, very happy, you know, for that. So we have a small quantity left, and I have to put on reserve for persons who did make requests and whatnot. So at this point, I think I have to go now and check my list to ensure that I put the copies on reserve, and then I will see what else is left. And if there are a few left, then I can tell persons you can get an extra copy. We did mention that in the beginning, and people did not waste time, you know, making requests and so on. So I think the launch was on Friday. Since the launch, we've distributed quite a number of copies. So I'm thinking maybe by next week they'll probably be gone.
You may have to do a reprint.
Well, we'll see. we'll see what happens. We'll see.
Yeah, because if everything goes within 2 weeks, then I mean, then certainly I'm sure there'll be, once the word gets around, there will be requests for a lot more of those books. So certainly, I forgot to mention, we have our good friend in there, Carleen Jules, who's on the photography, digital media.
That's
like you mentioned, Fiona Compton is there, and Nikita D'Souza.
Yes.
Tell us about her.
Nikita is, she's actually one of our instructors, and she teaches animation for us. She studied animation, and she also does digital media. She does a bit of graphic design as well. So Nikita is, she is a gem, a gem for me, and I must thank her again. I thanked her at the launch, and I must thank her again for assisting us so tremendously with the launch and making it a reality. So she teaches animation, and I think she's a very good instructor.
And since we are throwing names there, so we mentioned fashion, so Regina Edwards, Keitha Greaves, Esma Jamari, Hilda Michelle, and in film, theater arts, Mathrine Emmanuel, Drania Frederick, June King Frederick, and also Davina Lee, all ladies who have established themselves in both film and theater.
Very much so.
So now you've done this, so you've ticked off something on your to-do list. What's next for Signa?
Well, let's see. I think moving forward, I'm definitely going to be getting into the school more. We actually had to put a pause on our, our normal operations. We kept our summer program going, and that's because we had to move from where we were located in Saint Lucia. We're now located in Marisville. We recently moved into the new space, and it's taking some time to get things back on the ground, back in organization and so forth. We do have a lot of equipment. When you do art and design, it takes a lot. And so we have to organize the space and so forth. Once that's done, then we're going to go ahead and continue offering classes. I have some new things I'd like to add to the school. I think we'd like to be focused more on entrepreneurship, and to show persons that they can create a livelihood for themselves and they don't need to go and look for a job. In Saint Lucia is small and jobs are limited, but you have the world out there, and you can create here, and your work can be sold overseas, And I think that's the direction that we should be going into, because there's only so much persons who can buy your work in Saint Lucia. But there's opportunity, and we definitely want to show the students how they can take hold of those opportunities in the creative fields.
We can't wrap up the interview without talking about the Saint Lucia National Commission for UNESCO, who made all of this possible.
Definitely.
Talk to us about the alliance with and the connection with UNESCO.
Well, UNESCO, I think it's every 2 years, they put out this call for applications for this PP project. And I think organizations and so forth, they can put a proposal together, and they can submit it to UNESCO. I have a relationship with UNESCO. This is not the first PP we've been given, or let's say...
PP stands for?
Participation project.
Okay.
So this is not the first one. This is actually the second one that we've been approved for, and we've had a relationship with them in the past. They have supported our summer programs and so forth. What we try to do at the school is to see where funds are available, and to take hold of these opportunities to run the programs that we run, and to do what we do. You won't find too many agencies giving funds for the creative arts and so forth. So we try to scour and see what's available wherever it's available, and just try to take hold of whatever is there.
And I suppose Elder Juanita Mitchell was instrumental in some of the editing as well.
Well, she actually did all of the editing. Yes, she was the editor, and Crystal Riviere was the one who actually crafted most of the bios and re-scripted, because we actually had persons who submitted their bios already intact, and we had to scale it down, some of them, to actually fit the format that we had. And you can't just chop off, you have to make the story flow nicely and whatnot. So Crystal painstakingly did all of that, and I definitely want to thank her, for that. Yes, and Miss Michelle did do the editing, and we worked together very nicely. So I'm happy for that as well.
And I'm going to hold this up because so you can see exactly what it looks like. We'll also have it on the screen as well. But I wanted to ask you about the artwork here.
So of course the book is about women, so I thought that I would have a silhouette of a woman on the cover. All of the artwork that you see there, what I tried to do in designing the publication was to give everybody a personal touch, and every motif, every illustration was actually inspired by something that I saw in the imagery that is on each person's page. And I drew the inspiration from that, and I just decided it fit together nicely.
Oh, very, very nicely indeed. Okay, so it's called From Inspiration to Creation, Saint Lucian Women Sustaining Lives and Livelihood Through the Arts by Greaves Francis. It was such a pleasure speaking with you. You haven't even spoken about your sidewalk art, but I suppose that's for another show. That's
right. It's coming up again this Easter.
It's coming up again.
Yes.
Okay, good. And we always look forward to your sidewalk art as well.
That's right.
Congratulations on this.
Thank
it's a tremendous
so
work.
much.
And like you say, it's not available for sale, but I'm sure Saint Lucians can enjoy it at schools and wherever else the book can be found, and I'm sure you'll be doing a reprint at some point in time because there's going to be a demand for it.
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope so.
Yeah, but good luck, and we appreciate the work that you've done, and especially celebrating women in the arts, in 11 art disciplines, and they all are women of exceptional quality and talent, and so we are happy that you brought them to our attention as well, and congratulations to you.
Thank you so much.
And also your team for putting this together.
Thank you.
This is the reality show on Calabash TV. We thank Signor Greaves Francis for being here, and we urge you and invite you to join us again next week for our continuing conversation on national development.
This is The Reality Show.